Welcome to Conversations with Poets. I'm Michael Klam, Associate Publisher of the San Diego Poetry Annual, and so fired up to be here at Point Loma Nazarene University. Got to thank the Department of Communication Studies and Point TV for the camera work and for all of the support, the San Diego Entertainment and Arts Guild, the Public Library downtown San Diego, and the Commission for Arts and Culture. Thanks to everybody who supports the program. I've got Jane Muschenetz here today, and Jane, we've been partners, buddies for a long time, but we work together at the San Diego Poetry Annual. You've got a new book coming out and a launch coming up at the Mingay Museum, so I'd like to chat with you a little bit about your trajectory. You've been on fire lately. You've had so many awards and publications, 2 books, right? And Kelsey, and now PowerPoint, and that's coming here soon at Mingay. Of all of the awards that you've received lately, do you have any favorites? Has there been a moment that you just cherish?
Thank you, Michael, for having me on the show. When we first chatted on a version of the show, which was audio, we didn't know each other very well. I was just starting out. I had just gotten my first book accepted for a publication contract, so it feels really great to be sitting here talking to you. But now we're really good friends in poetry in the San Diego community. So thank you for that. And for your question, do I have any favorite awards? It's a little ridiculous. All my awards are equally beloved. No, you kind of hope you get an award. You kind of hope you get published, first of all. And then getting an award, any kind of recognition is just so fantastic. It feels incredible. And I think the latest one you get happens to be your favorite because that's the one that's not expected, that's new to you. I've been very fortunate to be supported by the local community. So the San Diego Writers Festival Award, which you got to present to me and I got to receive from you last year, I think that has to be one of my favorites. That's a huge honor.
And we put on a show that day, if you remember. So you received an award in front of a good-sized audience. And
yes.
Who we have? We had Reggie Gaines with us.
Oh
we had Cosima Lee, Ted Washington. So we had sort of poets of note in town, and kind of part of the work that we're doing is getting those poets together. Margarita Pintado, right here from Point Loma Nazarene University. And so of that work that you've done, kind of, I think part of what's happening is that you're connecting, and part of the connections that you're making is the work that you do bringing groups together, organizing events. So do you have any events that you'd like to talk about, or upcoming, or in the past?
Well, thank you for that opening. Sure. Yes, I do. I have an event with San Diego Writers, Inc. First Fridays is October 4th this month. I will periodically come in and speak with them, and San Diego Writers, Inc. is in Liberty Station. As you know, Judy Reeves is a part of that. They do a great job bringing together the community. And then, as you also mentioned, the Mingay Community Mondays, which is huge, a wonderful way for a community to get together. My book launch for PowerPoint, which is my latest book, which feels so fun to say, is happening November 4th. And that one is going to be themed to women and power. And it's also going to include a book fair of local women writers and local women-run lit orgs. So that should be really fun from 6 to 8:30 p.m. November 4th, the day before the election.
The day before the election, here we go, right? How are you feeling about that? What's going on? Are you nervous? Are you worried?
Well, some of my poetry is a little political. I think always worried. I think a non-nervous poet can't be trusted. To some extent, poets have to be nervous about what's going on in the world, but I am always hopeful as well.
Yeah. You think poets are supposed to talk about what's going on in the world, and we have to be bringers of truth all the time, and we've got to talk about the politics of the day. So we are the voice of what's really going on planet Earth.
Yeah, pick up the pen.
Pick up the pen. Or can we also kind of have fun with it, be entertaining, be funny?
Yeah, both of those things. Like, pick up the pen, poet, and do what you will. I don't think we need to always be under pressure to be serious. Like, poetry isn't only for depressing and difficult things. It's meant to be anything that you want to bring with it. It's meant to be accessible. It's free. It's, you know, children, when they learn to read, they often first fall in love with rhymes and couplets. So if you were to tell your 5-year-old self that, oh, that's not real poetry, poetry has to be serious, it doesn't make any kind of sense.
Right. PowerPoint has kind of a dark side to it, right?
It does.
Tell a little bit about PowerPoint and this humor that you found in your writing.
Yes, so PowerPoint has what is called dark humor, or maybe gallows humor is more appropriate. And it combines together the political poetry I do with my background as an MIT MBA, and a poet, and a mother, and a visual artist. So it has data poetry in it, and it talks about the power dynamics in our society, and it's also pointed poetry about those power dynamics. So PowerPoint has a lot of puns in it, and that's one version of humor which some people deride. It's like, you're not a serious poet if you resort to puns, but I just can't help myself. So a lot of the poems have the word point or power in them. And the conceit behind it is that too often women and change makers are dismissed as irrational or emotional and hysterical even. And so these poems use very bulletproof data from the CDC, from the UN, just newspaper sources that are really hard facts to make the case for a more compassionate world. And it is a very feminist collection, focusing in particular between the power disparity of women and men in the US and in the rest of the world.
Yeah. I think you probably reach people through humor a lot easier than you do through really dragging an audience through the depth of your political belief systems, right?
Yes.
Would you share a poem from PowerPoint for us?
Yes. So I think one that would be a good example of a little bit of tongue-in-cheek and dark humor, as well as making a point about a difficult topic, is Inspiration Point. In this version of history, Marge never went to college. Marge went to college briefly. Marge went to an all-girls college in the roaring 1920s, in pre-revolution Iran, in 2022 Afghanistan, in 2005 Harvard, when the school's president attributed underrepresentation of women in science to, quote, different availability of aptitude at the high end, a level of commitment that a much higher fraction of married men have been historically prepared to make than married women. Controversy arose when Marge wore pants, rode a bike, drove a car, played baseball, practiced medicine. Marge was jailed, sent to an insane asylum for reading too much and managing her own finances. Marge was rich and white. Marge was poor and white. Marge was rich and Latina, Latina and gay, Black, Indigenous, Jewish, Muslim. Marge went to a Catholic boarding school, a convent, a convention, the 1977 National Women's Conference. She participated in the women councils that governed ancient civilizations alongside the men. Marge studied art and mothering, gave birth to astrophysics, Jesus, and software engineering, walked alone late at night through the city center, the college campus, the grocery store parking lot, the cornfield, the timeline. Oh, the magnificent view. Fearless.
Astrophysics, yeah.
Wow, there is a footnote.
How much of this, let's hear your footnote.
So the footnote actually accredits the quote of the Harvard president. That's an actual quote that he made, and that quote is from PBS. And the footnote is, Mary Somerville, the first, quote, scientist, as opposed to man of science, combined the fields of astronomy, mathematics, and physical forces in her 1831 translation and expansion of Laplace's Mécanique Celeste. In the Bible, Virgin Mary birthed Jesus. Ada Lovelace, 1815 to 52, is widely acknowledged as the first computer programmer, while the first US software engineers during the early 1900s were all women. So women did indeed give birth to astrophysics, Jesus, and software engineering.
I love it. How much of this, making this collection, was research and preparing to present this collection? And as part of that question, did you have someone in mind when you were putting this together? Who are you writing this for?
I was writing it, and I think maybe a lot of poets write first for themselves to make sense of something, to answer a question they're trying to settle, to satisfy some kind of need, whether it's a difficult or a joyful piece of writing. It first answers an ask inside of us. And then I thought about people like me who maybe don't have a lot of patience for things that are too grandiose and too serious, but also at the same time want to engage with these difficult topics, not on just an emotional level, but with some data and facts behind them.
Yeah.
So that kind of tension is translated into the work.
Is the poem "You Are 600% Hotter Than the Sun" in this collection? Is it in there?
Yes, indeed.
I love
that
this
poem
poem.
is.
And I think this poem sort of encapsulates exactly what you just said, you know. Will you read that poem for us?
Yes,
All
so
right.
this one
Do
I
you have it
usually
memorized?
perform. I do have it
All
more
right.
memorized, but we'll see how that goes.
Let's do it.
Thank you. You Are 600% Hotter Than the Sun is actually based on a physics fact. And I love that this collection mixes things that people don't necessarily think go together, like science and data and poetry and art. Or an emotionally resonant narrative that is grounded in facts and logic. I just kind of love that. So there's a physics fact that I learned, and that is that a cup of the Earth's core produces around 60 milliwatts of thermal energy, and the same amount of a human being produces something like 350. So in a sense, we are hotter than the sun, there's just a lot less of us. Here's the poem. You are 600% hotter than the sun. Speaking roughly, in terms of heat generated per every human inch, you give off more milliwatts. Surge, energy. Only the sun is bigger. It matters. We're all blinded by love. The endlessly expanding, contracting universe is just another metaphor for longing. And life, its own purpose. How dazzling this science. Consider falling for a physicist. That painstakingly slow way they undress mathematical mysteries gets me every time space continuum. Part, particle, atomic, incandescent. You are pound per pound more life source, more bomb, more season spinning, searing center, heart, engine, radiating nuclear dynamic than the sun. Whew. Can't look directly in the mirror. Small wonder. Imagine. None of us powerless.
Jane, who'd you write that for? Quantum Theory and the Poetry of Jane Muschenetz for?
I wrote it for whoever needed it.
Whoever needed it. I love it.
Yeah.
Good answer. Very good answer. Yeah, so I actually interviewed and translated a collection called The Square Root of Heaven. And the
what a
poet
great name.
there, yeah, The Square Root of Heaven, the poet there uses quantum theory to address love and relationships, mathematics to address what it's like to be in the throes and the ordeal of a love and loving relationship.
And did they solve it?
No. Not at all. But the discussion is everything, right?
Yeah.
The ideas and putting them out there. And like you said, this is for everyone. You are 600% hotter than the sun is just such an epic title, right? I love it. And then you were, where did you publish that? You published that with Northwest, is that right?
I think
So-
that one first was published with Cathexis Northwest.
Cathexis Northwest, right?
Let me see. There's
Yeah.
an acknowledgement.
And then, so
section.
you published with Sheila Nagig, a Whale Road Review right here at Point Loma
Yes.
Nazarene University, the San Diego Poetry Annual. We published you a bunch of times, right?
Yes, you were one of the first places that published me, and that's kind of what the annual does for the community and for so many people, is gives them a home, allows them to see themselves as a poet.
Yeah.
And submissions are open and they're always free, right?
To October 15th, yeah, we're open right now. Get your poems into the San Diego Poetry Annual. We would love to publish you. It is community work, so it's basically community on the page, in the pages of the anthology. And local artists do our cover as well. What about small press? The
Yes.
importance of small press. So as you publish, and as you grow as a writer, talk a little bit about the importance of smaller publishing companies.
The smaller publishing companies are the ones that have the space and the desire to look for new talent, untested, someone who may be speaking and saying things that are important. They're not so worried about marketability to a large audience. They know they can sell under 500 copies, and that's enough for them. Their business model isn't about, we need to sell 500,000 copies. Obviously, most poets, when they're just starting out, and even mid-career poets, won't be able to sell that much just on their name recognition alone.
Yeah.
So they're incredibly important for that kind of access for the poet, but also for the audience. I think when we're going to bookstores, what we want to discover is something that someone hasn't seen before, and you're only going to get that kind of risk-taking, that kind of excitement from a small press.
Yeah, we were at Verbatim, and everybody was talking about if you want to get to the New Yorker, you got to publish in the smaller,
Yes,
the smaller
the way
magazines,
to the New Yorker is
the
paved
pathway
to
to the New
independent
Yorker.
presses. Yeah.
But I can't tell you how many times I've opened up the New Yorker, sort of looking for inspiration, didn't find it, and how many times I've opened up an anthology or a magazine or a zine, or looked on somebody's Instagram page and found something that absolutely lit my heart up. So I think as writers, we look for spaces, and one of the things, like you said, a small publishing company is going to give space, and that'll give you those first opportunities to get your work out there, but it'll also give you an opportunity to know what else is out there. So when you publish, read the magazine that you're going to publish with, right?
Yes.
Read the anthology, right? Know the submission guidelines, isn't that right?
And it's accessible. Often they will respond much faster than the traditional, bigger, more established brands. Often they are more affordable to submit to. And the kind of things, they kind of allow you to experiment because you're not so scared of failing or not doing so well on a public giant stage, which I think is part of the reason why when we read the bigger publication, we're thinking, oh, well, this is not necessarily the excitement I was hoping to receive, is because people are being safe there. They are doing the kind of things they know will work, whereas you get to workshop your work more freely in a more accepting space with the small presses, I think.
Yeah, and then when you wrote PowerPoint, were you coming from a place of, I'm going to do something completely different here? Were you experimenting? Is that where you were going?
I was. There's a lot of very visual, I don't know how this will translate on the camera, but I invented a new type of poetry called data poetry, which is, I made these poems in PowerPoint.
Right. How are you going to present? When you present it at the Mingay, when you open this, are you going to have?
There's going to be a
visible on screen?
PowerPoint presentation, 100%, yes.
Love it. So you get some visuals too?
There are visuals, there's charts, there's visual poems, like you get to, and I get to perform them as well. It's a combination of all of them. And when Sheila Nagig picked up the manuscript, she actually said, do more of this. Because if we're going to do it, I want you to lean into, when I was putting the manuscript together, I was conscious of the fact that small presses do not have an endless budget to publish whatever you want. So they are usually constrained by how the page is going to look. But in her case, she took on this project knowing that she was going to accommodate it with color, with a lot of graphical elements, and then because she gave me that freedom to kind of go as wild as I wanted to,
Yeah.
this is what happened.
Makes sense that Sheila and the Gig would let you go wild.
Yeah.
I mean, what is a Sheila and the Gig, right? The mythology of Sheila and the Gig, you know, these little statues all over
The
Ireland.
fertility goddess or
Yeah.
symbol, yes.
If a man touches a Sheila and the Gig, he becomes lustful, right? If a woman touches a Sheila and the Gig, she's having trouble getting pregnant. She can get pregnant and have a baby, right?
Yes.
It's a very wild spirit. And I won't say literally what Sheila and the Gig means. We'll save
No.
that for later.
Please
but
look it up on your own
Yeah,
time.
look it up. Look up Sheila and the Gig. You brought cookies today? You brought cookies for everybody for Point TV?
I did.
Are you going to have snacks? Because I know you and your husband do Table M, right?
Yes.
Is that the name of it?
Yes.
And you claim to be the butter half of that relationship.
Yes.
So tell a little bit about making food as art, or making art, because you're also an artist and a foodie, and you guys have this Table M podcast as well.
We do. It's not a podcast, it's a blog, which allows us not to continually update it. It's long running since college days. And Ingo actually, he designed the cover for both of my books and helped me with some graphic elements because he's the tech person.
It's nice to have someone like that at
Yes.
home. My wife's an editor, you know?
Yes,
Yeah, heavily
it's really-
rely on the wifey, rely on the spouse.
Our little secret get out of jail free card when we're
Exactly. Yeah,
up against
yeah.
a tight deadline
I
for
know.
sure.
I have to let it go though. I have to hand it over and walk away. You know what I mean. Don't talk about
Yes.
it. Just let him do it. You know. Yeah.
So we're very fortunate. He loves to cook, and I love to as well, but he's definitely the main chef and photographer in the house. I'm the writer and the taster. But he's
nice.
the one who described me as the butter half because he's a sweetheart. So I took it and ran with
I
it.
love that that's in your bio too. Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, just
go
put
with it.
everything in your bio. I don't know.
Yeah.
At the event, we're going to be doing just nibbles and things that will be free. The event will be free, but there will be a cash bar because I also love a good glass of wine. There'll be non-alcoholic
Wine is good,
beverages as
too.
well. And
Is there a fee to come in? Is there
the event will be
entry? It's
free. I think there'll be a fee if you want to buy the book, so you can pre-buy that.
gotcha.
And that will include one free drink ticket as well.
Sheila and the Gig will be there. How's the sales will be? You're going to be signing books.
I'll be signing books. There'll be other local authors, as I mentioned, selling and signing their books as well at the same time. So it will be kind of a huge group of people.
I love it, yeah. And you're very good at getting people in a room. Do you have a trick for that? How do we get people in the room? Like
I'm terrified of
for
being
young writers who want
alone.
to put on a show. Me too. I can tell you. Is it what, like Eventbrite? Is it posts? Is it Instagram? Like, how do you get people in the room?
I just don't want to do anything alone. I think it's scary to be the only one in the limelight. So I try to get a group of friends together. It's always more fun if you're planning something with friends. And I always try to share the spotlight. Like in this case, if it was just me doing everything myself, it would be hard and it would be boring and it would be stressful. But if it's a whole group of us doing a book fair together, then that's interesting. It's a party. Yeah. Everyone comes. They get to have their own set of spotlight as well. We get to celebrate each other, and we get to invite all our friends. And yeah, food and alcohol definitely helps too.
Food and alcohol.
Yeah, that's the secret.
Snacks, right?
Snacks, cookies.
What do we say at the beginning? It'd be nosh, right? Some nosh.
Noshing,
Your first book was All the Bad Girls Wear Russian Accents.
Yes,
Am I right? Will you take us out with a poem from All the Bad Girls Wear Russian Accents?
Yes, of course. I will do the title poem, and here's that book. And then this is me. My husband took this photo as well. All the bad girls wear Russian accents. I'll try to do it from memory, but you know.
I don't have enough brain cells for that kind of thing, so I'll just
you don't.
rely on you for the memorized stuff.
All the bad girls wear Russian accents. In the movies, villains have accents. Sometimes German, but mostly Russian. Hard edge, lyrics of something forbidden. Severe haircuts, steel blue eyes, and an appreciation for Tchaikovsky. For a black swan kind of life. For fairy tales built from curses. Say something in Russian. the boys beg me in school, hoping for death threats, nuclear arms codes, or at least a good cuss word or two. I answer, krasavitsa, a bullet through every consonant, bare my teeth on the V, exhale over that last ah, imply red lipstick. What does it mean? I don't tell them. Only smile as they try to shape the unfamiliar with their mouths, repeating my mangled conviction over and over, laughing. They will shout it after me. I know from experience. Throw it out with pride for remembering the next time they see me, maybe even use it as a perpetual greeting for the only Russian speaker they know, which is why I won't teach them anything ugly. It will only be poured back over me later. A feedback loop quicker than some. Krasavitsa in Russian means gorgeous woman, which in the movies, all the best villains are.
You popped a wink at the end there. I love it. Why not, you know? So your poetry has a lot of performance in it, right?
Yes, it's weird to do it sitting down. I kind of want to stand up and kind of do the whole stage thing.
And you, right. And you choose to do that because some poets will just sit and read off the page.
Yes.
Why do you choose to perform your poems? You put a lot of sort of movement into the reading part. Why do you choose to do that?
I don't know.
You don't
I mean,
know?
it sort of wants to do that.
Yeah?
It
There you
wants
go,
to
so
do
you're
it.
rolling with it.
I
Yeah?
roll with it. I think, yeah, not all of them call for that kind of pizzazz and jazz to it, but
Right.
this poem just kind of wants to me, and I wanted to do it on the page. I tried to construct it so that kind of sassiness and pizzazz and lightness and inside cheekiness comes across on the page as well, because obviously I'm not going to be there reading it to everyone.
Right.
But
give
then-
them a little extra at the
Yeah.
reading, right? A little
But the
something,
opposite of
something.
that is when you're on the stage reading your work, people don't get to see what it looks like on the
Yeah.
page. So all your hard thought out line breaks and spacing and syllable accenting, it's not available. So you
Nope.
have to make it apparent through your reading.
As poet and performer, right? And that's 100% your choice. Yeah?
Yeah.
All right, so one more time. Where can they find you? When is the book opening for PowerPoint?
Oh, yes. Okay, I do have a website and an Instagram account, as terrible as I am at it. It's at Palm Frond Zoo, and it's palmfrondzoo.com. And you can see most of my recent publications and most of my events. I try to do a fairly decent job of updating it. And November 4th at the Mingay Museum from 6 to 8:30. Please come out and see.
Yeah, get out there, find Jane, find the San Diego Poetry Annual too. We publish coming up soon, but our submissions period is open until October 15th, so you have a couple of weeks to get them in. If this airs after that, then our submissions open the following April 15th through October 15th, and we hope that you'll publish with us if you are a local poet. I want to thank Nathan Gibbs, again, Point TV, the Department of Communication Studies. Thank you so much for having us here at beautiful Point Loma Nazarene University over here in Point Loma, right next to the Pacific Ocean. Jane, thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you in 20 minutes to do the next, work on the next project. Yeah?
Sounds great.
All right.
Thank you
Poetry
so much.
Community, San Diego. Oh, like and subscribe. That helps us with our funding, right?
Yes,
And it
funding.
helps us put out more of these videos and do more interviews.